The human ship drifted silently through the endless blackness of space, its metal hull reflecting faint light from distant stars. It was small, nothing compared to the giant vessels humans had read about in old records, but it carried hope and curiosity. The crew was a handful of explorers, ordinary people who had trained for years to take one small step into the unknown. They were not soldiers or diplomats, they were scientists, engineers, and dreamers. The mission was simple: test a new type of jump drive that could send a ship farther and faster than ever before. Yet, as often happens in life, things rarely go as planned. The jump itself had been smooth, flawless in every simulation. But the moment the ship emerged from hyperspace, the crew realized something was off. They had expected darkness and emptiness, the familiar cold of space stretching endlessly around them. Instead, there was light everywhere, though not the gentle glow of stars. These lights were alive, moving, shifting, and organized in a way that made the humans instinctively sit back and stare. Ships, hundreds of them, perhaps thousands, stretched in neat lines, forming patterns the crew couldn't immediately understand. This was no ordinary fleet. This was the work of a civilization that had mastered space to a degree humans could barely imagine. "Where are we?" one of the crew asked, their voice shaking slightly despite trying not to show fear. It was the kind of question that could only be asked in awe and terror at the same time. The captain, a calm and thoughtful human who had spent years learning to manage unexpected crises, stared at the view screen without speaking. His mind raced. They had miscalculated the coordinates. Somewhere in the infinite stretch of space, they had jumped into a place no human had ever been. Or at least, no human had returned to tell the tale. Sensors immediately detected the approaching vessels. They weren't just ships, they were massive, like floating cities, shimmering with energy and technology that no human blueprint could replicate. A small fleet began moving toward them with alarming speed and precision. The crew watched in silence, each person holding their breath. They had read about first contact scenarios in old stories and reports, but no book could prepare them for this. The humans were no longer explorers, they were intruders in a realm that spanned thousands of worlds, and every instinct screamed that their presence would not be tolerated. Then, a voice came over the comm system. It was not mechanical. It was clear, sharp, and full of authority. The voice introduced itself as a representative of the Galactic Empire, a civilization that controlled a significant portion of known space. They spoke with confidence as if they already knew who should bow and who should be crushed. The words were fast, precise, almost musical, but the meaning was unmistakable. Humans were expected to respond with obedience, fear, or at least respect. The captain, however, leaned back in his chair, studying the readings. He noticed the formation of the alien fleet, their energy pulses, their patterns, and realized something important. They were not invincible. They were organized, yes, and terrifying in scale, but they had weaknesses, flaws that could be exploited if necessary. Still, the goal was not to fight. Humans were not there to conquer or challenge anyone. They were there by accident, and that fact needed to be communicated clearly. A calm response was prepared, and with a careful calmness, the captain pressed the transmit button. "This is the human ship Horizon. Apologies. We appear to have taken a wrong turn. We mean no harm." The words were simple, almost casual, but they carried the weight of honesty. There was no fear, no exaggeration, no trembling in the voice. It was human in the most basic sense. Direct, honest, and understated. There was a pause on the other end. The aliens were clearly expecting panic, maybe even aggression, but instead they got calmness. The silence stretched long enough for the crew to feel it in their bones. Then the voice returned, sharper this time, demanding an explanation. The aliens seemed confused, as if the human response had broken some unspoken protocol. They were used to creatures reacting in predictable ways: fear, respect, or submission. Humans, it seemed, did none of these. The crew exchanged glances, trying to suppress nervous laughter. One of the engineers whispered under her breath, "I think we just broke them." The captain didn't respond, but a small smile crept onto his face. Humans were not trained to be conquered easily, and even in situations that seemed impossible, they could maintain composure. It was not arrogance, it was survival instinct combined with years of problem-solving under extreme conditions. Sensors began to pick up more information about the approaching fleet. Ships moved with a precision that spoke of centuries of military tradition. Each vessel was enormous, capable of housing thousands, possibly millions of inhabitants. Their energy shields were advanced, their weapons beyond anything humans had yet built. The horizon seemed like a toy in comparison, yet the humans did not panic. Instead, they observed, calculated, and waited for the next move. Another transmission came, this time with more authority. Identify yourselves. Explain your presence in Imperial space. Do not attempt deception. The crew prepared another simple response. We are explorers. We did not know this space was occupied. We wish to leave peacefully. It was short, factual, and honest. There were no excuses, no attempts to flatter. The humans did not see the need to impress anyone with stories of their achievements. Their confidence came from knowing they were capable, not from needing approval. For the first time, the aliens seemed unsettled. They had never encountered a species that spoke to them with such calmness, with no hint of fear or awe. They had expected humans to beg, to plead, or at least to show some trembling respect. Instead, they got straightforward honesty and quiet confidence. For a moment, the scale of their power meant nothing. The humans were not impressed, not intimidated, and not afraid. As the humans continued to communicate, the crew noticed the subtle movements of the alien fleet. It was impressive but rigid. They had relied on their size, their numbers, their technology, assuming that anything smaller or less advanced would naturally be scared. The humans, however, observed patterns, weaknesses, and inconsistencies. Even in the middle of what seemed like overwhelming odds, they saw opportunities for understanding and survival. Hours passed in tense silence. The aliens scanned every inch of the horizon, trying to determine if the humans posed a threat. The humans, meanwhile, explored their own emotions, feeling a strange mix of fear, awe, and excitement. They had not just stumbled into another civilization, they had entered the heart of a galactic empire. And yet, despite the danger, there was a thrill in knowing they were witnessing history in real time, seeing a civilization unlike anything humans had ever imagined. Finally, a compromise was reached. The Empire demanded the humans follow them to a nearby station for inspection, promising safety if they complied. The humans, knowing resistance would be pointless and dangerous, agreed. As the ship began to move, the crew couldn't help but marvel at the scale of what they were seeing. Giant starships drifted by, glowing with energy fields and mysterious technology. The crew felt small, insignificant even, but not powerless. They had their wits, their honesty, and the one thing the Empire did not expect: their unshakable calm. The journey toward the station was tense. Every sensor ping, every flash of alien light was met with careful analysis. The humans observed, took notes, and prepared themselves for whatever might come next. They were explorers, yes, but they were also survivors. And in this moment, they realized something important. Humans were not easily impressed, not easily intimidated, and never easily broken. Even in the heart of a galactic empire, they remained exactly who they were: curious, calm, and quietly fearless. By the time the station appeared on the horizon, massive and imposing, the crew of the Horizon had already begun to understand one truth. This empire may control thousands of worlds, but it had never met humans like them before. The humans were not here to conquer or dominate. They were here by accident, and yet, even by accident, they had changed the dynamics of the encounter. The empire expected fear, and instead it found nothing but calm confidence. And in that moment, as the ship slowly approached the station, the humans realized something even more profound. In a galaxy filled with power, pride, and spectacle, the one thing that mattered most was simple honesty and unshakable composure. Humans may have been small in size, unarmed in comparison, and accidental in presence, but they had something far greater than technology or numbers. They had a spirit the Empire had never encountered, and it would not be easily forgotten. The human ship drifted slowly toward the enormous station, which looked more like a city than a spacecraft. It glowed with a strange light, pulsing as if it had a heartbeat of its own. The crew watched in silence, their eyes wide at the sheer scale of it. Every detail, from the moving docking bays to the energy bridges connecting different sections, was designed to impress and intimidate. Yet the humans remained calm, their minds focused on observation and understanding rather than fear. When they finally docked, an airlock opened with a smooth hiss, revealing an interior that was unlike anything humans had imagined. The walls shimmered with energy, and vast windows displayed the galaxy outside, showing hundreds of ships moving in disciplined patterns. The floor itself seemed alive, responding to every step with faint pulses of light. The crew could feel the alien presence even before they saw it, a sense of being observed by thousands of unseen eyes. Before they could even step out, a voice echoed across the chamber. It was formal, precise, and carried the weight of authority. "Welcome to the Imperial Station," it said. "You will be escorted for questioning and observation. Any attempt at deception will be met with immediate consequences." The words were sharp, calculated, and meant to intimidate. The humans, however, exchanged quiet glances and stepped forward without hesitation. There was no tremble in their stance, no nervous fidgeting. They were not impressed by threats, they never had been. The escort arrived shortly after. They were not human, of course. They moved with an elegance that was almost unnatural, their limbs precise and deliberate, their eyes glowing faintly with what seemed like intelligence far beyond human comprehension. They led the crew through corridors that twisted and curved in impossible ways, walls shimmering with energy, and doors opening at a thought. Every corner of the station radiated power and sophistication. The humans felt small, but they did not feel weak. Their curiosity outweighed their fear. As they walked, the humans could hear discussions in the background, voices speaking in languages they did not understand, yet somehow they felt the weight behind every word. The Empire was a civilization that thrived on control, precision, and efficiency. Every sound, every gesture seemed designed to assert dominance. Yet the humans noticed something subtle. For all the power and technology, there was rigidity. The aliens followed rules to the letter, relying on procedures that could be predicted if one paid enough attention. Finally, they arrived in a large observation chamber, where more of the Empire's officials awaited. These beings were taller than humans, with glowing eyes and intricate markings across their skin. They radiated confidence, and each gesture carried authority. One of them stepped forward, introducing himself as a representative of the Galactic Council, the governing body of the Empire. His voice was smooth but commanding. "You have entered Imperial space without authorization. Explain yourselves." The humans responded in the simplest way possible. The captain spoke first, calm and measured. "We are explorers. Our jump drive miscalculated our coordinates. We did not intend to enter your space. We seek only to leave peacefully." The answer was short, honest, and free from flattery. There was no fear in his tone, no hint of panic. He spoke as if stating a fact, not asking for mercy. The council representative's eyes narrowed. This was unexpected. Every other species had reacted with fear, hesitation, or respect. None had dared to speak with such calm honesty. He tilted his head, studying the humans as if they were an unknown animal. The humans did not cower. They did not bow. They did not try to impress with empty words. They were simple, direct, and unshakable. A murmur passed through the chamber. Some of the officials exchanged quick glances, whispering among themselves in their strange musical language. The humans noticed, but they did not react. They were used to reading situations, observing, and understanding before acting. The human crew had trained for emergencies, for conflicts, for encounters far stranger than anything most could imagine. And now, in the heart of an alien empire, that training gave them quiet strength. The council representative leaned forward slightly. "You claim ignorance, yet you are in the heart of our territory. You are equipped with technology far beyond what primitive explorers could achieve. How do you explain this?" His tone was a mixture of accusation and disbelief. The engineer stepped forward, speaking calmly. "Our ship is experimental. We have been testing a new propulsion system. There was no intention to enter your space. It was an accident." Her words were simple, matter-of-fact, but they carried weight. They were honest, and that honesty seemed to unsettle the aliens even further. For a moment, silence filled the room. The humans could feel the weight of 1,000 curious, calculating eyes upon them. Yet they did not falter. They did not need to. Humans were creatures who thrived on adaptability, on using their wits, and on remaining calm under pressure. They had faced storms, disasters, and conflicts on their own planet that required far more courage than standing in front of an alien council. The council representative, however, was not yet convinced. He gestured to a nearby console, and suddenly, the chamber lit up with holographic displays. The humans saw maps, fleet movements, energy readings, all of it detailed and precise. The Empire was showing them just how much control they had over this sector. They wanted the humans to be impressed, to tremble, to acknowledge inferiority. The humans, however, remained unmoved. One of them leaned slightly toward a console, studying it with curiosity rather than fear. "Interesting," they said quietly. "I see your energy systems are efficient, but there's room for improvement in flow regulation. You might reduce losses by at least 15%. The comment was casual, analytical, and utterly unexpected. The council gasped audibly. Not only were the humans unafraid, but they were also pointing out inefficiencies in the Empire's systems. Whispers spread through the chamber. Some officials muttered to each other in alarm, while others simply stared, trying to understand this species that defied every expectation. The humans, meanwhile, continued to observe, ask questions, and take notes. They were not impressed by grandeur, by power, or by scale. They were interested in function, logic, and practical application. To them, the Empire's show of dominance was impressive, but irrelevant to their immediate goals. As the observation continued, the humans noticed subtle details the aliens did not realize were being observed. The way energy pulses were timed, the patterns of fleet coordination, even the minor inefficiencies in resource allocation. These were small, almost invisible flaws, but humans were trained to notice patterns. Where others saw perfection, they saw opportunity for understanding. Then came a challenge. A senior official stepped forward, his glowing eyes focused sharply on the human captain. "If you are truly explorers, then demonstrate your capabilities. Show us why your species should not be considered primitive. Convince us of your worth." The room seemed to hold its breath. Every official was watching, expecting either failure or submission. The captain remained calm. He looked around at his crew, and without a word, they all nodded. They were not here to impress with weapons, not here to prove dominance, and certainly not here to bow. They were here to be themselves, curious, observant, and quietly confident. A small console on the human ship lit up remotely. Data flowed across it, showing the Empire's systems in real time. The humans had found ways to analyze and interact with alien technology without causing harm. They demonstrated efficiency improvements, minor adjustments, and suggestions for system optimization. Every move was precise, logical, and respectful of the Empire's authority. Yet the effect was undeniable. The Council began to realize that humans were not simple creatures. They were capable, intelligent, and not easily intimidated. A silence followed. The Council had expected fear, arrogance, or pleading. Instead, they had received competence, honesty, and quiet confidence. For the first time, the Empire faced a species that could think on its own terms, that could challenge assumptions without aggression. The humans did not boast or threaten. They simply were capable. That alone made the Council uneasy. Hours passed, and the humans continued to interact with the Council and their officials. They asked questions, observed, and quietly took notes. Every answer they gave was truthful, every action measured. They did not seek praise, yet they commanded respect through presence alone. They had entered Imperial space by accident, yet already the Empire was reconsidering what it thought it knew about sentient life. By the time the humans were escorted back to their ship, the Council was silent. The officials whispered among themselves, trying to comprehend the implications of what had just occurred. The humans had not been impressed, had not feared, and had not bowed. They had observed, understood, and demonstrated quiet competence. And in doing so, they had left a lasting impression on one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. As the Horizon undocked and prepared to leave the station, the crew felt a mixture of relief and triumph. They had survived the first encounter, not through aggression, not through weapons, but through honesty, observation, and calm intelligence. They had proven without saying a word that humans were not easily intimidated, and that their value was measured not in size, power, or spectacle, but in their mind and spirit. The stars stretched. The human crew left the Imperial station with a mixture of relief and curiosity. Even though they had not been harmed, they could feel the lingering weight of the Empire's presence. The sheer scale of the place, the countless systems under its control, and the disciplined precision of every officer they had observed, it was overwhelming. Yet as the Horizon moved away from the station, the humans could not help but reflect on what they had learned. They had seen power, wealth, and technology far beyond human comprehension, but their minds were focused on understanding, not fear. The captain sat quietly in the command chair, eyes scanning the galaxy outside. The crew were busy checking sensors, reviewing data, and taking notes. The human approach was simple: observe, learn, and remain calm. The Empire had shown them their greatest displays, yet the humans were not impressed by size or spectacle. Instead, they analyzed patterns, looking for logic and efficiency in the Empire's systems. Even in the face of overwhelming power, their curiosity remained intact. Soon, a message arrived on the comms. It was from the Empire, requesting the Horizon to perform a demonstration of their ship's capabilities. The humans exchanged glances. They had already proven their honesty and competence, but the Empire was persistent. They wanted to see action, to witness humanity in motion, to assess their worth beyond words. The captain nodded. There was no fear, only focus. "We will comply," he said calmly, "but we do it our way." The humans moved through the ship, preparing the experimental drive for a short demonstration. Unlike the Empire's vast, intricate machines, the Horizon was compact and practical. Every control, every system was designed for efficiency and adaptability. It did not rely on grandeur. It relied on functionality. The human crew worked in perfect synchronization, adjusting parameters, monitoring energy flows, and preparing for a controlled jump. Even in their routine, there was a quiet elegance that came from years of practice and trust in each other's skills. When the demonstration began, the humans activated the drive. The ship's hull hummed with energy, a soft vibration that filled the cabin. Outside, the stars seemed to stretch, bend, and blur as the horizon accelerated. In moments, the ship jumped forward in a sudden, smooth motion. Sensors recorded the jump, energy readings, and navigational data with incredible precision. The demonstration was simple but effective. It showed capability without extravagance, efficiency without flashiness, and intelligence without arrogance. The Empire's observers were initially silent. They expected a spectacular display, something grand and intimidating. Instead, they saw a human ship operate with precision, doing more with less, relying on logic and ingenuity rather than sheer size or overwhelming power. It was not flashy, but it was efficient. It was not loud, but it was undeniable. In a way, the simplicity made it even more impressive. The humans had accomplished in minutes what the Empire might have taken years to achieve with vast resources. After the demonstration, the aliens began to ask more questions. They wanted to know how humans had achieved such efficiency, how such a small ship could operate so effectively. The humans answered honestly, explaining their approach to problem solving, the importance of adaptability, and the years of trial and error behind every system. The explanations were clear, straightforward, and devoid of unnecessary jargon. They did not seek admiration. They simply told the truth. The Empire was beginning to realize something important. Humans were not like other species they had encountered. They did not rely on size, spectacle, or intimidation. They did not bow under pressure, and they did not overcomplicate things. They were small, unassuming, and yet capable of remarkable things. It was a concept the Empire struggled to comprehend because it had spent centuries measuring strength in numbers, technology, and control. Humans measured strength differently, through ingenuity, observation, and calm intelligence. As the demonstration ended, the Empire's representatives began to observe the humans more closely. They wanted to see how humans would react under stress, how they would handle challenges, and whether their confidence was genuine or reckless. To the humans, this was simply part of exploration. They were used to unknown situations, to emergencies, to unexpected encounters. They did not need to impress. They only needed to adapt, to understand, and to remain composed. A small challenge was presented next. The Empire activated a complex obstacle course in the space surrounding the station, filled with moving energy barriers, gravitational shifts, and unpredictable navigation hazards. The humans were instructed to navigate it without causing damage to the course or themselves. They glanced at each other, nodded, and prepared to begin. Unlike the Empire's massive fleets, the Horizon relied on precision, timing, and teamwork. Every move was calculated, every adjustment carefully considered. The ship moved with grace through the course, dodging obstacles, adjusting energy flows, and responding instantly to unexpected shifts. The humans remained calm throughout, communicating in short, precise bursts, trusting their instincts and training. To the Empire, it looked almost effortless. Every successful maneuver seemed to highlight the contrast between human simplicity and their own over-engineered systems. Where the aliens used brute force and sheer numbers, the humans used logic and adaptability. When the course was completed without a single error, the room fell silent. The Empire's observers had expected struggle, panic, or at least hesitation. Instead, they had witnessed competence, calm, and coordination. The humans had not tried to dazzle them with weapons, firepower, or flashy maneuvers. They had done exactly what was needed, efficiently and effectively. For a civilization that measured power in spectacle and scale, the demonstration was a revelation. The council representative stepped forward again, his voice measured but curious. Your methods are unusual. Most species would have failed or required multiple attempts. How do you maintain such composure and effectiveness? The captain smiled faintly. We focus on understanding first. Fear, arrogance, or distraction only slow you down. Observe, analyze, and act. That is how we survive and succeed. The response was simple, honest, and profound. The humans did not speak in terms of superiority or dominance. They spoke in terms of practicality. Their calm confidence was rooted in preparation, observation, and adaptability, not in pride or technology. It was a perspective the Empire had never truly encountered. Most species relied on their power to assert themselves, but humans relied on their minds. That made them unpredictable, and unpredictability was dangerous for an empire used to total control. As the hours passed, the humans continued to navigate simulations, answer questions, and demonstrate capabilities. They remained composed, never seeking praise, never showing arrogance. Each successful maneuver, each calm response chipped away at the preconceived notions the Empire held. The humans were small, unassuming, and accidental visitors, yet they had shown qualities that even the most powerful aliens found difficult to measure. The crew took a brief break in the ship's common area, sitting together quietly. They did not celebrate, but there was a shared sense of accomplishment. They had survived the first real test of the Empire's scrutiny, not through aggression or intimidation, but through honesty, observation, and calm intelligence. They had demonstrated that humans were capable of more than appearances suggested, and that simplicity and logic could often achieve what spectacle and force could not. One of the engineers looked out at the distant lights of the station and said quietly, I think they're starting to understand us in their own way. The captain nodded. Maybe, but understanding doesn't mean trust. We still need to be careful. Their caution was wise. While humans had proven competence and calm, they were still in alien territory, surrounded by technology and beings far beyond their experience. Still, the sense of accomplishment was undeniable. Humans had not bowed, they had not panicked, and they had not been impressed by grandeur or power. They had relied on skill, observation, and teamwork, and that had been enough to make the Empire pause, reconsider, and take notice. For a species that valued intimidation and spectacle, this was a subtle but powerful form of victory. As the crew prepared for the next phase of their accidental encounter, they could not help but feel a quiet thrill. They were witnessing history, not as conquerors but as explorers and observers. They had entered a civilization that spanned thousands of worlds and walked through its tests without fear or pretense. And for the first time, the Empire had begun to see humans not as mere primitives, but as beings with potential intelligence and courage that could not be measured by weapons, ships, or numbers. The hours faded into night cycles aboard the ship, but the humans remained focused. Observation, learning, and calm adaptability were their strengths, and they used them well. Even as the Empire continued to scrutinize them, they never lost composure. They had discovered something vital. In the heart of power, in the center of a vast empire, humans had one advantage that even the most advanced civilizations struggled to understand: the ability to remain calm, thoughtful, and undeterred in the face of overwhelming spectacle. By the time the crew rested, the first real impressions of humans had begun to settle in the Empire's minds. They were not a species to underestimate. They were not impressed by grandeur nor sway. The humans returned to the horizon after their extended observation session aboard the Imperial station. The ship felt smaller than before, a fragile vessel against the vastness of the Empire's domain. Yet it was home to the crew and their skills. They had already survived the first tests of the Empire's curiosity and power, but they knew the challenges were far from over. The galaxy was a place of unknown dangers, and a civilization as vast and organized as the Empire would continue to observe, evaluate, and test any intruder. As the crew worked to review the data they had gathered, the sensors began to pick up unusual energy readings nearby. At first, the patterns were difficult to interpret. Unlike the fleet formations they had observed, these readings were erratic, fast, and unpredictable. The captain leaned over the console, analyzing every detail. "This isn't patrol traffic," he said quietly. "It's something else. Something advanced. Something unexpected." Within minutes, the source revealed itself. A small fleet of alien vessels appeared on the horizon, moving with an unusual rhythm. These ships were not as large as the Empire's main forces, but they were sleek, heavily armed, and highly maneuverable. The humans realized instantly that they were dealing with a minor faction of the Empire, an aggressive group likely testing the newcomers. They were confident, swift, and clearly prepared to engage if necessary. The crew's first reaction was not fear, but assessment. They scanned the fleet, calculating potential outcomes of various responses. Humans were trained to think in probabilities, to analyze every variable, and to act only after understanding the situation. The captain turned to the crew. "They're testing us. Let's show them we're capable, but carefully. No unnecessary risks." The plan was simple. Demonstrate competence, avoid conflict, and survive. The alien fleet closed in. Communication was attempted immediately. The humans sent a signal, simple and clear. "We are explorers. We mean no harm. Please hold position while we communicate." The message was calm, direct, and honest. In most species, such honesty might have been dismissed as weakness. In this faction, it caused confusion. The aliens expected panic, evasive maneuvers, or at least a display of fear. The humans showed none of these. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then one of the alien vessels adjusted its trajectory, moving slightly closer. It was a subtle threat, a test to see if the humans would react aggressively. The crew of the Horizon did not move erratically. Instead, the engineer quietly suggested a minor adjustment to the ship's shields, improving energy distribution to maximize stability in case of sudden energy pulses. The captain approved. Every action was careful, measured, and calm. The aliens observed this with suspicion. Their sensors likely registered the efficiency, speed, and precision of each adjustment. Humans were performing calculations, making decisions, and executing commands faster than expected, all without panic or hesitation. The faction had anticipated fear or overreaction. Yet the humans seemed to operate almost instinctively, with a calm that was unnerving to the alien commanders. To escalate the test, one of the alien vessels fired a warning shot. A controlled energy pulse arced through space, creating a bright streak near the horizon. It was not meant to hit, only to intimidate. The humans watched its trajectory carefully, noting energy signatures and velocity. The captain leaned forward. "No sudden moves. Let it pass." The pulse missed by a small margin, and the humans exhaled quietly. They had demonstrated patience and discipline under stress, qualities the aliens had not expected. The crew realized something important. The aliens measured power by aggression, by the ability to dominate or intimidate. Humans measured it differently, through composure, adaptability, and intelligence. That difference, subtle as it was, gave the humans an unexpected edge. They were small, seemingly unarmed, and yet their minds were sharp, their teamwork precise, and their responses calculated. They had turned a potential threat into a controlled observation exercise. As the minor fleet continued to test them, the humans executed maneuvers with quiet efficiency. They used the ship's propulsion in ways that were elegant rather than flashy, weaving through space to maintain position without appearing defensive or aggressive. Sensors collected every data point, noting energy flows, movement patterns, and shield efficiency. To the aliens, it might have seemed like the humans were unpredictable, even reckless, but in truth every move was deliberate and informed by experience. One of the engineers spoke up, pointing at the readings on her console. "They're trying to provoke us, but their patterns are inconsistent. They haven't accounted for rapid adaptive thinking. We could predict their next move if we continue monitoring." The captain nodded. Humans had always relied on observation and adaptation. Where others reacted blindly, they calculated. Where others assumed predictability, they looked for the subtle changes, the signs that revealed hidden intent. The alien faction grew increasingly cautious. Their initial confidence began to waver as they realized the humans were not panicking, not fleeing, and not retaliating. Instead, the humans operated with precision, calmly countering minor environmental effects and energy manipulations introduced by the fleet. Each adjustment was subtle, efficient, and non-confrontational. It was a type of power the aliens did not understand, one that could not be measured by the number of weapons or size of ships. At this point, the humans had the opportunity to escalate, to push back with their experimental drive, or to use defensive systems to intimidate, yet they did not. Their approach was always observation first, response second. The goal was survival and understanding, not dominance. This restraint was powerful in itself. The aliens had never seen a species capable of self-control under stress, capable of patience while calculating every possible outcome. Hours passed as the engagement continued. The humans gradually gathered extensive data about the alien ship's energy systems, maneuverability, and command structures. They noted inefficiencies in shield management, energy distribution, and even fleet coordination. To the aliens, these were minor flaws, insignificant in the grand scope of their power. To humans, they were essential information, insights that could save lives, improve systems, and provide understanding of one of the most advanced civilizations in existence. Finally, the alien faction began to withdraw. Their testing had revealed what they had not expected. Humans were composed, intelligent, and adaptive. They had survived the test without panic, without aggression, and without compromise. The humans' calm competence had turned intimidation into observation. The aliens had learned something that no amount of size, numbers, or weapons could teach them. Humans were unpredictable in a way that demanded respect. After the minor fleet departed, the crew of the Horizon gathered in the common area. There was a quiet sense of accomplishment, but no celebration. Humans did not need accolades to feel achievement. The crew reviewed the data collected, noting patterns, inefficiencies, and strategies for the future. Every observation made them better prepared for the next encounter. Whether it involved the Empire, other factions, or completely unknown civilizations, the captain addressed the crew quietly. "We've survived the first real test. Not with force, but with calm observation and teamwork. That's who we are. Remember it." His words were simple yet profound. Humans did not measure success by aggression. They measured it by intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to remain composed under pressure. That mindset had carried them across stars, and it would carry them further still. The humans also began to understand something about the Empire. Despite its size and power, the civilization was vulnerable to a species that thought differently. While the Empire relied on intimidation, spectacle, and strict order, humans relied on analysis, adaptability, and patience. These qualities made humans capable of navigating situations that others might consider impossible. In a way, it was not a confrontation of strength, but a confrontation of perspective. As the Horizon drifted farther from the encounter zone, the crew reflected on the experience. They had not been impressed by the Empire's display nor intimidated by its technology. Instead, they had observed, adapted, and survived. Their calm under pressure, their focus on understanding rather than confrontation, and their ability to act decisively yet thoughtfully had made a lasting impression on even the most advanced alien observers. The stars outside seemed brighter, almost reassuring, as if acknowledging the humans' quiet triumph. They had survived the first encounter not by overpowering but by thinking. They had shown that intelligence, patience, and honesty could be more powerful than weapons or intimidation. And in doing so, they had set the stage for future encounters that might not always be accidental, but would require the same human traits that had carried them this far. As night fell aboard the Horizon, the crew prepared for rest, yet their minds were already analyzing the next steps. Humans were explorers, observers, and survivors. They were small in scale compared to the Empire, yet they had shown that courage, intelligence, and calm could turn the tide of any encounter. They had entered alien space by accident, yet they had emerged with understanding, data, and a sense of accomplishment. In the quiet moments before sleep, the captain looked out at the stars. The galaxy was vast, the Empire was powerful, and humans were still learning. But the humans continued to drift through the outskirts of the Empire's territory, carrying with them the data, observations, and lessons from their accidental encounters. Even though the immediate threats had passed, the crew knew the galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of civilizations far older and more advanced than their own. Yet despite the danger, the human crew felt a quiet confidence. They were not warriors or conquerors. They were explorers, thinkers, and observers, and that made them capable in ways many other species would never understand. As the horizon moved through space, sensors suddenly picked up a strange anomaly. Unlike the calculated, organized energy readings they had seen before, this signal was chaotic, erratic, and pulsing with a power they could not immediately recognize. The crew leaned over the consoles, analyzing every detail. The captain spoke quietly. "This isn't just a patrol. This is something bigger, something they don't want us to see." The engineers and scientists nodded. Their curiosity piqued. Humans had always been drawn to the unknown, even when it was dangerous. Within minutes, the source of the anomaly revealed itself. A massive vessel emerged from a nearby system, unlike anything humans had ever seen. It was sleek and dark, almost blending with the void of space, yet it radiated energy that was impossible to ignore. Its weapon systems glowed faintly, and the energy shields surrounding it shimmered like rippling water. It was clear this ship was a part of the Empire, but it belonged to a special faction, an elite unit known for testing, controlling, and, if necessary, eliminating intruders. The humans assessed the situation calmly. They could not outrun such a ship, nor could they hope to match its raw power. Yet they did not panic. Instead, they began analyzing its energy signature, movement patterns, and sensor readings. Every variable was noted, every subtle change observed. Humans had always excelled in observation and adaptation, and now those skills were more critical than ever. The captain turned to his crew. "We need to remain calm. Observe first, act second. Let's show them we're capable without being a threat." As the massive vessel approached, a comm signal was transmitted. The voice was cold, commanding, and filled with authority. "Identify yourselves. You are in restricted space. Any attempt to flee or deceive will result in destruction." The humans responded simply, honestly, and without hesitation. "We are explorers. We did not intend to enter your space. We seek only to leave peacefully." The response was measured and truthful, reflecting the calm confidence that humans carried in every encounter. For a moment, there was silence. The massive vessel seemed to hesitate, as if it were trying to understand this species that refused to show fear. The humans did not flinch. They did not plead. They simply continued to monitor the ship, noting its energy flows, shield patterns, and movement dynamics. To the alien crew, this was unsettling. They had never encountered a species that faced overwhelming power without panic, arrogance, or submission. The elite vessel moved closer, performing maneuvers that were aggressive yet calculated. It tested the humans, firing small energy pulses designed to intimidate and disrupt. Each pulse was precise, fast, and meant to force the humans to reveal weakness. Yet the crew of the Horizon did not panic. They adjusted their shields, calculated energy dispersal, and maintained steady positioning. Every action was deliberate, efficient, and calm. The humans' response was not only survival, it was observation. They recorded every movement, every energy fluctuation, every response from the alien vessel. Where others might have seen chaos, they saw patterns. Where others might have panicked, they adapted. This was the true strength of humanity, the ability to think clearly, act logically, and remain unshaken even in the presence of overwhelming power. Hours passed as the elite vessel continued to test the humans. Minor maneuvers, energy pulses, and simulated attacks were all executed to provoke a reaction. The humans, however, treated every move as data. They did not retaliate aggressively, but they did respond effectively when necessary, ensuring their ship remained stable and operational. The aliens began to realize that these humans were not only resilient, but capable of rapid adaptive thinking that they could not predict. The captain reviewed the data with the crew. "Notice the patterns," he said. "They rely on predictability, but we are unpredictable. Calm, observation, calculation, that is our advantage. Stay focused." The crew nodded. Humans had always relied on strategy, analysis, and teamwork to survive challenges far greater than themselves. This encounter was no different, except the scale and stakes were now astronomical. As the day progressed, the elite vessel began to withdraw slightly. It had tested the humans and found no fear, no aggression, and no reckless mistakes. The humans had survived not through brute force but through intelligence, observation, and composure. The aliens were beginning to understand that humans were unpredictable in ways that made them difficult to control, intimidate, or dominate. That unpredictability was a strength that even the most advanced civilizations could not ignore. The humans continued to analyze the ship as it moved away. They noted its strengths, its weaknesses, and its energy signature for future reference. Every observation added to their understanding of the Empire and its capabilities. To humans, knowledge was as important as survival. By understanding their surroundings, they could adapt to any challenge and remain in control of their own destiny. Later, the crew discussed the encounter quietly in the ship's common area. They expected fear, one engineer said. They thought we'd panic, make mistakes, or run. But we didn't. We stayed calm, observed, and acted wisely. That's why we survived. The captain nodded. Exactly. Survival isn't about fighting. It's about thinking, adapting, and making the right decisions under pressure. That's how humans endure, and that's why they underestimated us. Even as they rested, the humans knew the encounter had changed something. The Empire's elite units now knew that humans were capable of more than they could predict. The galaxy was full of power, technology, and spectacle, but humans measured strength differently. Their intelligence, composure, and adaptability allowed them to navigate situations that might have overwhelmed other species. The crew felt a quiet sense of pride, not in aggression or dominance, but in their ability to survive and learn. The next morning, sensors picked up another anomaly. This time not a ship, but a communication signal. It was from the Empire's Central Command, and it carried a tone of curiosity rather than hostility. The humans read the message carefully. The Empire wanted to understand more about them. They were no longer just intruders or accidental explorers. They were now a subject of observation, a species whose behavior had caught the attention of one of the most powerful civilizations in existence. The captain called the crew together. We've survived the first real test. They've seen we're competent and calm. Now they want to know more about us. This is an opportunity, not a threat. We remain honest, we remain calm, and we continue to observe. That is our advantage. The crew nodded in agreement. Humans had always thrived in situations that required adaptability, intelligence, and teamwork. This encounter was no different. Over the next several hours, the humans prepared to respond. They studied the message, analyzed its implications, and coordinated their reply. They were not intimidated by the Empire's curiosity. Instead, they were intrigued. Humans had always been explorers at heart, and the chance to learn more about a civilization far beyond their own understanding was exactly what they were trained for. When they transmitted their reply, it was concise, honest, and respectful. They explained their accidental presence, described their mission, and offered to share observations for mutual understanding. There was no arrogance, no fear, no exaggeration, just clear, truthful communication. The Empire, accustomed to submission or spectacle, received something entirely different. Humans who were confident without being aggressive, capable without being threatening, and curious without being naive. As the message was sent, the humans prepared for the next phase of their journey. The horizon moved steadily through space, sensors scanning for new anomalies, new challenges, and new opportunities to learn. They had survived aggression, intimidation, and testing without losing composure. They had demonstrated intelligence, adaptability, and calm under pressure, and in doing so, they had begun to earn a subtle, unspoken respect from the Empire. Even as the galaxy stretched endlessly before them, the humans knew one thing clearly. Survival depended not on power or size, but on observation, adaptability, and composure. They had entered alien space by accident, faced one of the galaxy's elite forces, and emerged intact and informed. Their journey was only beginning, but they had proven a fundamental truth about humanity. The quiet strength of the human mind could navigate even the most overwhelming challenges. As the stars passed by, the crew of the Horizon reflected on the day's events. The galaxy was vast, the Empire powerful, and humans small in scale but not in spirit. Their intelligence, composure, and adaptability had carried them this far, and would carry them even further. They were explorers, observers, and survivors, and no matter how powerful the civilizations they encountered, their calm and thoughtful approach would always give them an advantage that could not be measured by size or weaponry alone. The humans set The horizon drifted quietly through the vast expanse of space, leaving the edge of the Empire's territory behind. The crew sat in a rare moment of calm, reviewing the experiences of the past days. They had survived accidental intrusion, aggressive testing, and observation by one of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Yet despite everything they had seen, their curiosity had not faded. The humans were explorers by nature, and no amount of power, technology, or intimidation could change that. Even now, as the stars stretched endlessly before them, they reflected on what they had learned. The Empire had shown them grandeur beyond imagination, fleets that moved with perfect coordination, and ships capable of incredible power. But they had also revealed something else: rigidity. They operated under strict rules, expecting submission or obedience from every species they encountered. They relied on intimidation, on scale, and on spectacle to assert control. The humans, however, had observed, adapted, and survived without any of those things. The captain spoke quietly, breaking the silence. "We've learned a lot about them. Their strength is obvious, but so is their weakness. They underestimate species that don't behave as expected. That's our advantage," the crew nodded. They had seen it firsthand. The Empire had assumed fear, submission, or aggression, and humans had shown none of these. Instead, they had relied on intelligence, observation, and calm determination. Those qualities had carried them through every challenge so far. As the ship continued its journey, a new signal appeared on the sensors. This time, it was not aggressive or threatening. It was an invitation, or at least a request for communication from the Empire's central command. The humans were not intimidated. They approached the signal as they always had, calmly, analytically, and with curiosity. The message contained questions, subtle observations, and a genuine interest in understanding the species that had defied expectations. The crew gathered to draft a response. Every word was considered carefully. Honesty and clarity guided their message. They explained their accidental entry, their mission of exploration, and their intent to leave peacefully. They included observations about the Empire, phrased respectfully, showing knowledge without arrogance. This was humans at their best, straightforward, intelligent, and thoughtful. The message was sent with confidence, knowing that even powerful civilizations respected clarity and honesty when it was paired with competence. Hours passed before the reply came. The response was measured and surprisingly curious. The Empire acknowledged the humans' presence, expressed respect for their composure during testing, and asked for further insight into their technology and methods. The humans reviewed the message with interest. This was not a surrender nor a challenge. It was recognition, subtle, cautious, and genuine. Humans had made an impression not through aggression or spectacle, but by simply being themselves, capable, observant, and unshakable. The captain addressed the crew. "This is remarkable. They've seen our approach and respect it. They want to learn from us, or at least understand us. That is not weakness, it's an opportunity. We continue to observe, to answer truthfully, and to maintain our principles. That is how humans thrive." The crew nodded in agreement. Humans had always succeeded by thinking differently, by staying calm in the face of chaos, and by adapting without compromising their values. That mindset had carried them across stars, and it would continue to do so. In the following days, the crew engaged in careful communication with the Empire. They shared observations about their own systems, their methods of problem-solving, and insights into their ship's capabilities. Every interaction was measured, honest, and thoughtful. They did not boast, and they did not undermine the Empire's authority. Yet by being themselves, they subtly challenged the assumptions the Empire held about lesser species. Humans were not easily intimidated, and they were not predictable. That alone left a lasting impression. Meanwhile, the crew continued to navigate space, remaining vigilant for any anomalies or encounters. Their journey was not only about survival, it was about understanding the galaxy, learning from other civilizations, and applying that knowledge to their own growth. Humans were explorers by instinct. Every sensor reading, every observation, and every calculated decision added to their understanding. They had survived tests designed to intimidate and dominate, and each success strengthened their confidence without arrogance. One afternoon, a small scout vessel from the Empire approached the horizon. Unlike previous encounters, there was no aggression, No testing pulses, no subtle intimidation. It was a simple approach, an acknowledgement. The humans prepared to communicate. The scout's message was polite, almost cautious, asking for further discussion and sharing insights about the Empire's operations. The crew smiled quietly. They had turned fear and power into dialogue. They had created a bridge of understanding simply by being observant, composed, and truthful. The captain addressed the approaching ship. "We will respond. As always, honestly and clearly. Let's maintain our calm and continue learning. That is how we navigate this galaxy." The crew prepared the response. They included technical details, insights into their methods, and respectful questions about the Empire's systems. Every word was deliberate, measured, and clear. They were building trust not through power, but through honesty, intelligence, and human perspective. As the conversation continued, the humans noticed something remarkable. The Empire's communication style began to shift subtly. Questions became less formal, more curious. Observations carried hints of admiration for the humans' composure and problem-solving skills. The humans were not just surviving, they were influencing. Their approach, which relied on observation and calm intelligence, was beginning to reshape the Empire's assumptions. A species that had once been underestimated was now becoming a subject of careful study and cautious respect. Despite the tension of being deep in alien space, the humans never felt fear. They had survived tests, intimidation, and challenges beyond what most species could endure. Their strength was not in their weapons or ships, it was in their mind, their patience, and their ability to act thoughtfully under pressure. Each challenge they faced reinforced a core principle of humanity. Intelligence, observation, and composure were more powerful than fear, aggression, or spectacle. The crew took a moment to reflect quietly in the ship's common area. "We've come a long way," one engineer said. "From accidental intrusion to now, being recognized as a species that commands respect through intelligence." "It's incredible," the captain nodded. "It is. But remember, this is only the beginning. The galaxy is vast, and there are civilizations we haven't even imagined. We survive, we learn, and we continue forward. That is our strength." The humans continued their journey, moving deeper into unexplored regions. Along the way, they encountered other anomalies, minor fleets, and uncharted phenomena, each presenting new challenges and opportunities to learn. They approached each situation with the same calm and analytical mindset, never overreacting, never underestimating. They relied on observation, teamwork, and careful action to navigate a universe full of uncertainty. Through every encounter, the humans observed a pattern. Civilizations across the galaxy relied on intimidation, power, and spectacle to assert dominance. Humans relied on intelligence, honesty, and composure. That difference allowed them to survive, adapt, and even influence those they encountered. The galaxy's strongest civilizations had underestimated the human mind, and that underestimation became an advantage that no weapon or ship could replicate. As the horizon sailed through the stars, the crew discussed what they had learned. Every member contributed insights, noting the strengths and weaknesses of the civilizations they had encountered. They compared strategies, calculated probabilities, and refined their approach to exploration. Humanity's greatest strength was not technology alone, but the ability to learn quickly, adapt calmly, and act decisively in situations where fear or arrogance could lead to failure. Eventually, the humans approached the edge of the Empire's space. The sensors picked up fewer vessels, fewer controlled formations, and more freedom to navigate. The crew felt a quiet sense of relief, but also accomplishment. They had survived one of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations without compromise, intimidation, or aggression. They had shown that humans were capable, intelligent, and unshakable, and in doing so, they had created a foundation for understanding, respect, and cautious curiosity from those who once assumed superiority. The captain looked out at the galaxy. "We've survived, learned, and grown. The Empire will not forget us, and we have not forgotten them. The universe is vast, full of challenges and opportunities, but as long as we remain observant, calm, and intelligent, there is nothing we cannot face." The crew nodded, their confidence quiet, but unshakable. Humans did not need to boast. Their actions, their intelligence, and their composure spoke for themselves. As night fell aboard the horizon, the crew reflected on the journey that had brought them here. They had entered the Empire by accident, faced elite fleets, survived tests of composure, and emerged with knowledge, respect, and understanding. The galaxy was a place of wonder and danger, but humans had shown that intelligence, honesty, and calm could navigate even the most overwhelming challenges. The